Part 2 of this video, I'm going to be cutting the top of Elliot's hair, and a lot of people get these wrong. What a lot of people seem to do is they leave the crown too long, so the crown comes down too much, either makes a step around here and it doesn't blend down very nicely, as you can see it blends down perfectly, or it goes all the way to the front and they end up with a massive wedge going across the forehead here, only because this hair here is getting all the way down to the length here. As you can see how Elliot's has grown, it's still quite short on the crown, because I like it really short coming into long hair, not long hair going into a long fringe. It just makes it look too much of a bowl to me. So I'll grab me water and we'll wet it down. Makes it a little easier to cut. But one of the things is, you've got to be quite brave when you're doing the crown, because you're going to cut quite a bit more off than you think you should be. But that's what makes it look a lot better. This is where a lot of people I see in the trade go wrong. They leave the crown way too long. So we'll start at the back, at the crown, and it's quite short now compared to the length on the front, which is quite long. But what I shall do is start at the crown, just club cutting it, chip into it about an inch, but quite a lot off. And then ever so slightly, as I move forward, ever so slightly, my fingers start going up a little bit, and I start cutting a tiny bit less off every time. So that ever so slightly, I can see where I cut it last time. It's getting ever so slightly longer. So already I can see, just by combing it, the section that I've done here and how short it is at the back here. That's not going to stand up, that will lay, and it will lay nicely, and then carry on. Now you're getting towards the fringe. So where a lot of people might go wrong is they might accidentally pick a chunk of fringe up, not look in the mirror, think, oh no, this is fine, cut the fringe, and all of a sudden you've cut part of the fringe off. So now you start getting a little bit longer, as you can see. Your fingers are getting a bit higher and higher, and then a tiny bit higher again, and this is starting to become part of the fringe again. So you can see already, if I go like this, how his hair is going from short to longer, getting into that fringe. And then follow the same section here, but bear in mind when we did the skin fade earlier, we started doing this to save time anyway. So we get this section here, and we're softening it down into the sides, getting ever so slightly longer. Same thing. Now we're getting towards the front again, so we don't want to make sure we don't pick up any fringe, because we're going to cut that separately. And then really, that's the sides done. You might want to just check it, scissor over comb, ever so lightly, just check it, make sure it's all done, but there's no hairs coming off. It's all absolutely perfect. You could do the same on the back if you wish to, but you've done all that with a clip over comb earlier. But you can always just check it and make sure it's perfect. Same on this side. Now, one of the reasons a lot of people get the top wrong, or they get this one side longer than the other side, is quite simply, the fingers are fatter at the back than they are on the tips. Your hand naturally will go this way, especially if you're right-handed like myself. It doesn't want to go this way. So what happens is this way you find it very easy to do it. This way you feel as though you're fighting against you. But always remember, as long as you keep it at 90 degrees coming away from the head, it's going to blend down perfectly. So you don't want your hand coming up like this. This is what happens a lot on this section, because that feels more natural. Your hand will stay quite low, and that's 90 degrees. So my arm and hand are very low, and you can see I've done it last time. It's exactly the same sections. So you'll see the same amount coming off. Okay, so and exactly the same as doing this side, we are ever so slightly getting longer towards the front, keeping, so naturally there I didn't even think about it, my hand stayed very low, and then comes in at that angle, which is making the head stay exactly 90 degrees. It never changes. So just check it, make sure you haven't missed any. You can always come across on the cross sections, making sure. One of the things I like to do as well is I pull it all forward nice and flat, pick up the section and make sure I get them ones. So none there, none there, really. And then I know that that's going perfectly from there into the fringe, and you can just see how well it's laid. There's no, very importantly, if I get Elliot to pop his head down and I comb it all dead straight and flat, so any imperfections would really stand out now, you can see there's no scissor marks going across the top at all. So if I point Elliot towards the camera, it all blends down absolutely perfectly. And now what happens is, when people pull the hair down like this is what makes imperfections. That's why a lot of barbering videos and tutorials, they're forever brushing it like this, keeping it going forward, or cutting the hair like this. Because as soon as the hair goes forward, that's when the imperfections show up, or they mess it up with their fingers like I just did. That's a great way to cover things up. But if I comb it all perfectly, you can see with the light coming down, there's no scissor marks going across the top. It all just blends down, which is exactly what you want, because it's not going to grow unevenly. So we're going to do the fringe now, and the great thing with the fringe is not to cut too much off. Always leave them longer than cut them too short. Simple as that. It's a simple rule of thumb, especially in this modern hairstyle, which looks awesome with a longer fringe, because they can always mess it up more and keep it sitting up more. So there's no point taking too much off that you don't need to. Plus, it gets customers back in quicker, so they spend more money. So starting with a fringe, I don't start with cutting it blunt, and I'll certainly never do any of this. I want to see it as choppy as I can. So I start coming across this section, right, picking up all the hairs on the front, just the tips are coming off really. And then once I've done that, I can already see where I've cut. I can already see that the whole fringe has been taken up. Then I just pull it in my fingers and ever so slightly chip into it, just taking the tips off it, making sure it's nice and even. I don't want it to be wonky, but I don't want it to be too even. It's nice and choppy. Plus Elliot's going to wear it very choppy. Doing the same on this side. It's only been a couple of weeks since Elliot's really had it done. Making sure it's all nice and even, nice and choppy. And then messing it all up. And then seeing where it sits. And then one thing I always like to do, which I've noticed a lot of people don't, is I like to dry it before I think I'm finished with the fringe. Because, well, now I've been combing it, I've combed all the curls out. So it's going to be laying at its longest. So if I dry it off, that's going to add some volume to the front, and it's going to lift it off his forehead ever so slightly, which makes a different hairstyle all of a sudden. So you can see straight away how it's starting to create a bit of a gap between the eyebrow and the fringe. Ooh. Getting hot in here. Yeah. Trying to get as much volume in as we can, so I'm kind of using my fingertips to get a bit of height into the front. But more importantly, you can see all that texture coming from the crown here into the fringe. So it's not going from here. This is very short coming in, so you've got to have a bit of guts about you and cut the crown nice and short, but trust that you can still blend it into the front perfectly, and it'll give that nice texture coming from the back into the fringe. give us a like and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it helps. Please let me know if it helps you in any way, because that's the only reason I'm doing these videos. And thanks. See you soon. Ciao.